What up, everybody? What up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the greatest afternoon show on planet Earth, AC Reviews the World. I am your host, AC the Engineer, and we are at episode 97. Let's give it a round. Yep, 97. It is December 30th. It's getting closer and closer to the end of the year, y'all. It's December 30th, 2025. And the world is a crazy place. The world is a crazy place. And like every single day we have this show, we got some crazy things to talk about and some crazy things we need to review together. If you don't know, now you know. But if you don't know, we are here Monday through Friday, starting between 6 and 7. Usually starting around 6, but you never know. It could be pushed back to 7 just depending on what I'm doing that day. But we cannot miss. We're here holidays. If it's Monday through Friday, 6 to 7, we're going to be here. Unless I give a reason, but we'll always do a makeup show. Today, like always, we got a crazy number of things. We got 4 different things to talk about and some things that we need to review together. Some things we got to review together. Just a short summary of what we're going to be talking about today. You know how I like to do it. We got to talk about the Somali daycare fraud, so that whole viral thing that's going on, we'll get into that. Then we got some chaos that happened at the Atlantic Station in Atlanta, I believe. 400 teens causing chaos. And then we got to go over into a $400,000 lobster heist. Yeah, I said it right, a lobster heist. And it's not the first time. And then lastly, we're going to talk about a murder-suicide that happened out in Texas. But like always, if you disagree with anything I said in any of these, please leave a comment. Let's have a discussion about it. This is not an echo chamber. This is a place where we can have a nice discussion and debate on what we think about the certain topics. But you know how I like to do it. I like to jump right into it. Let's jump right into it. Let me go on.
She belongs to the street.
No, that's the
sensational.
Yeah, I got to get the right ad lib right. That's not she belong, but let's jump right into it, y'all. Let's jump right into it. Like I said, the first thing we're going to be talking about today is the Somali daycare fraud. There's a lot of things becoming about the Somalians, however you say it. But let's get over into this and see what we can find out about this situation. So let's get into it.
We'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
A bombshell viral video purports to have cracked open a crucial part of the alleged Somali aid scheme in Minnesota, as federal investigators say as much as $9 billion could have been stolen in fraudulent schemes within the state. The aftermath has since garnered intense backlash aimed at state leadership, with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz desperately defending himself against ever-growing allegations. Here's everything you need to know. On December 26th, YouTuber Nick Shirley shared a 42-minute video of himself and a Minnesotan named David traveling around Minneapolis and visiting multiple child care and learning sites allegedly owned by Somali immigrants and receiving millions in taxpayer dollars.
$1.604 million in fiscal year 2025. This place right here.
However, the pair discovered that many were either shuttered entirely with blacked out windows, despite signage indicating they were open, or were helmed by staff who refused to participate in the video.
Can I speak to a manager?
Most of the sites, which claim to be licensed for dozens of children each, had no children inside whatsoever.
Can you tell us why there are no children? Have you ever seen children at this child care center?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Doesn't know if she's ever seen a child here.
One infamous location called Quality Learning Center, which displays a misspelled sign reading Quality Leering Center, also features blacked out windows. The center is supposed to account for 99 children. However, a local resident of 8 years revealed he's never seen a child go in or out of the building.
Where are the children?
I don't see them. I've been here since 2017. I haven't seen anybody like
Never
that here.
seen a child here.
No.
Surely,
Now, let me say something. If a place is getting millions of dollars, billions of dollars, or how much ever they're getting from the government assistance for taking care of children, and there's no children ever around, this just goes to show you that checks need to be in place, because people, no matter who they are, will try to use the system to get free things. It's a reality that we have to live in. There needs to be checks and balances in place to double check, to confirm that these people who are actually getting the money actually need it. That is why I was so fine with going through the government, looking for any kind of instant of fraud. But let's keep going into this.
he even asked multiple sites if he would be able to have his child join, only to be denied at the door.
Can I get paperwork or anything to submit my son, little Joey, to come in here to daycare? Would my son, little Joey, have friends to play with here? No.
The mega viral video has since spread like wildfire on social media, garnering over 100 million views on X alone. On Fox News' The Big Weekend Show, Shirley joked that the alleged scheme was so obvious that a kindergartner could figure out there was fraud going on.
So there better be change because, like I said, we work way too hard to be paying taxes. We work way too hard to be not knowing where our money's going. And at the end of the day, the people in the government, they work for us. We don't work for them. And so it's their responsibility to hold these people accountable.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has since faced intense scrutiny over the alleged fraud. Republican Minnesota Representative Tom Emmer wrote on X, $4 million of hard-earned tax dollars going to an education center that can't even spell learning correctly. Care to explain this one, Tim Walz? While New York Representative Mike Lawler called for people to be arrested and prosecuted, as well as for Walz to be held accountable for the scandal.
Now, if you go back and look at the actual video that Nick did, one of the places, that's where they're coming, it didn't spell learning correctly. It put it left out the N. Couldn't even spell that correctly on the billboard. Yet you're getting millions of dollars of funding.
In a statement to Fox News, a spokesperson for Tim Walz said, "The governor has worked for years to crack down on fraud and asked the state legislature for more authority to take aggressive action. He has strengthened oversight, including launching investigations into these specific facilities, one of which was already closed." However, a resurfaced clip shows that Walz openly bragged about making it easier for people to get into the childcare business during the 2024 vice presidential debate.
As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure that folks are able to pay for that. We were able to do it in Minnesota, and I'm still telling you this.
Walz's state of Minnesota has been plagued by
He was able to do that in Minnesota, and look at it. Don't even have kids in the daycare center. They're just submitting paperwork so they can get free money.
several high-profile fraud scandals in recent years, the largest being the Feeding Our Future scheme, in which 78 scammers, many of whom are from Somalia, have been prosecuted in the COVID-era food relief program scam. The ploy, according to prosecutors, involved funneling money from state social services coffers, including at the Department of Human Services and Department of Education, to the nonprofit Feeding Our Future and other organizations to ostensibly feed school children. Instead, the plot used the funds to splurge on the lavish lifestyles of the nonprofit's workers. According to Minnesota education officials, Feeding Our Future and its affiliated groups submitted over $500 million in claims, while federal authorities estimate that the extent of the rampant fraud could total $9 billion. The DOJ has already convicted at least 57 fraudsters in the scheme. On Monday,
Now that they mentioned the feeding families fraud, it's a horrible situation when an organization that is supposed to be created to help a certain group of people is in turn just used to make the people who run it richer. We've seen it with this. We've seen it with the Black Lives Matter stuff where they were buying mansions and stuff like that. But let's get over into this next video.
Local and federal authorities ramping up investigations into alleged social services fraud in Minnesota. Dozens of people have already been convicted or pleaded guilty, and many more are facing federal charges for diverting money meant for programs like childhood nutrition, housing services, and support for people with autism. It comes as GOP leaders seize on a viral video by YouTuber Nick Shirley. The influencer claims he uncovered $110 million in fraud tied to Minnesota child care subsidies. The video shows Shirley going around visiting daycare centers that appear empty despite receiving millions in state funds. And just moments ago, the Minnesota Department of Child Care, Youth and Families reacting to the video saying, quote, "Fraud has no place in Minnesota's public programs." The department confirms every site that was visited in Shirley's video has been visited by officials in the past 6 months. And staff are visiting facilities again today to address growing concerns over potential fraud. All of this as federal agents launch their own investigations, with the DHS saying that ICE agents are on the ground today as well in the Twin Cities. The FBI and Small Business Administration also looking into those fraud claims. News Nation is tracking this fast evolving story. We'll bring you the newest details as we learn more.
Thank you for watching.
Absolutely crazy situation. Let's keep going.
Homeland Security agents are descending on the state of Minnesota, all in response to a sweeping fraud scheme. Here's Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons.
What we're seeing is there's always a tide when it comes to sanctuary jurisdictions where you can hide in plain sight. You see a lot of these fraudsters use a lot of the sanctuary rules and sanctuary protections to, enact criminal fraud just like this. When Homeland Security Investigations goes into these businesses, there is criminal activity when it comes to labor trafficking, child trafficking, human exploitation, and that's what we're looking at up there in Minnesota.
And this is the story everybody's talking about right now. For more on this, we are joined by CBP Senior Advisor Ron Vitiello. Ron, good morning to you. Great to see you.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So some Republicans are pushing the idea that any Somalis who are convicted of defrauding American taxpayers as part of this scheme should have their legal status revoked, even their U.S. citizenship stripped away. Here's Republican Congressman from Minnesota, Tom Emmer. He says, quote, "I have 3 words regarding Somalis who have committed fraud against American taxpayers. Send them home. If they're here illegally, deport them immediately. If they're naturalized citizens, revoke their citizenship and deport them quickly after. If we need to change the law to do that, I will." Ron, as you are well aware, denaturalization is a pretty rare process. It's also very tedious. Should it be on the table here?
Absolutely. That's the way the law works. If you defraud the government, and obviously there's a lot of fraud going on in Minnesota in this case, the U.S. Attorney's talking about up to $9 billion. The federal government sends Minnesota $26 billion every year. That's about a third of their budget, and they certainly weren't watching what was happening. And so if these people are involved in fraud to get that money and send it all over the world to keep it for themselves, they may have lied on their citizenship applications. They might have lied on how they came into the country, et cetera, what benefits they exposed themselves to on the immigration side. And if they lied about that, then they could be removed if they're in the country as immigrants, and if they're citizens and they lied on those in that process, they could be denaturalized.
I mean, it makes sense. If you lie on the process to get into here, you're proven to do fraud. So I can understand where they want to, people who were granted citizenships based on a lie to get denaturalized, you know what I'm trying to say, get their citizenship revoked. It makes sense to me. Let's keep going.
And there are some media outlets who are kind of pushing back on this DHS crackdown in the state of Minnesota, essentially saying this is all about demonizing immigrants and Somalis. Take a listen.
The other part of this is an attempt to make this about Somalis in general as opposed to just about the people who are responsible. It's not really about the fraud.
This is absolutely an attack on the Somali community and on immigrants writ large. The vast majority of the Somali residents of Minnesota are citizens. They're not new immigrants. So this is just a further example of the Trump White House doing everything they can to vilify immigrants.
But I mean, Ron, you look at the numbers. There have been 92 people charged in this fraud scheme in Minnesota. 82 of them have been Somalis. Facts are facts. The overwhelming majority of the people committing these crimes are foreigners who have come here to take advantage of the American taxpayer. Give us your thoughts.
Well, 100%. We had an administration with Joe Biden that was encouraging people to come in the United States. Apparently, they're encouraging people to come to Minnesota and steal taxpayers' money that's designed to help that very community. This is a crime that happened in a place, and that crime was conducted by certain people that are in the United States. They happen to be from Somalia, and so they're the ones that are going to be prosecuted and removed. And so the left that wants to run to the microphone and protect people who are in the country illegally, who have committed crimes and have defrauded Americans, they don't deserve our respect.
Now, see, CNN made it sound like that they were just going to, no matter if you were Somalia or whatever race they wanted to look at, that they were just going to deport you. The main thing they're looking at is the people who committed crimes. That's the main thing that I'm fine with. Now, I don't think they're trying to say any Somalia is this just what they do. That is where people need to draw the line. People start bringing, like, just because of their color or their race, that they are destined to do this. That is where we start. Where some people are thinking that it can get into a problem. Now, if they committed some kind of fraud, 100% get them out. Committed some kind of crime, 100% get them out.
I do want to ask you about another topic. Brand new report out regarding ICE arrests essentially says that new data shows that 70% of ICE arrests in 2025 were convicted criminals or people with pending charges. This from the Washington Examiner essentially says that in 2025, ICE arrested 595,000 illegal immigrants. And according to DHS data, 70% of them, about 416,000, have criminal convictions or pending criminal charges. Ron,
that's good. That's a good number. 70% be criminals. It's good numbers to me. But that is what we want to look at. We want to look at the Somalia daycare fraud. The Somalia daycare fraud, which is a crazy thing to even think about, that people would even think of. Well, I mean, I'm not surprised that people would think of using the government at a time when it was just giving away free money. But let's go. Let's do a little breakdown of everything. So the scale of the investigation: Homeland Security described the current operation in Minnesota as a massive investigation on child care and other rampant fraud, with several media outlets quoting her as saying that the agents were going door to door as suspected fraud sites. So the financial scope: prosecutor estimate the total loss from various social services fraud cases in Minnesota, including those tied to the child care and food programs, could exceed $1 billion. And some federal estimates suggest that as much as $9 billion have been stolen across 14 states since 2018. So any legal act. So in the Feeding Our Futures, what we talked about earlier, a separate but related $250 million food aid scam, 78 people were charged and 57 were convicted in March of 2025. The U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi stated that the Department of Justice has charged 96 individuals and 85 of them were Somalian descent in recent months related to the broader fraud schemes. Now, like I said, yes, majority of them, was just looking at facts, the majority of them are Somalians. But no matter what, whoever is committing the crime, no matter if they are Asian, black, white, they need to be arrested and held responsible for their actions. It's not that they're targeting a certain group. It's that it just happens to be that the majority of the group that was caught is Somalians, which I don't think it's. When you start putting it, just saying, oh, well, all Somalis are doing this, I don't think we can generalizely say that statement. But we just need to make sure we're going after the people who are. Just don't who are actually committing the frauds. That is the main thing that's important about this whole situation. If they commit fraud, send them out. That's all that matters. But they have to be investigated. They have to be investigated. But that is the whole situation that's happening with the Somalia daycare fraud. Now, let me know your thoughts on that situation. I always do that backwards. Let me know your thoughts on that situation. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. It's a crazy case, but it's being exposed, which is a good thing. He goes up, the viral video went crazy because he went up to all these different daycares and there was no children anywhere. He asked questions about, can I get an application to enroll my son? They said no, straight up no. Will my son have a good time here? No. They don't even have the right, they don't even spell the words right on the sign. That's supposed to be a daycare. It's a crazy situation, y'all, but let me know your thoughts on that whole thing. But we're going to pivot over into, we got to go to Atlanta. We got to go to Atlanta. There's chaos at the Atlantic Station. Seems like 400 to 500 teens showed up and started causing chaos. I don't know what the chaos actually means, but let's get over into it and see what we can make of this whole situation. Seems like it was a big scandal. So let's get over into it.
Well, chaos erupted at Atlantic Station last night when a swarm of teenagers ran through the area, damaging property and firing gunshots. Atlanta News First reporter Mary Kate Hamilton is live for us in Midtown this morning. And Mary Kate, walk us through what happened there last night.
Well, chaos is exactly the word, Chelsea. Police initially responded to a call around 7:15 last night for shots fired in Atlantic Station. When they arrived, they found a huge group of teenagers who were shooting off fireworks at property, at buildings, and into the crowd. Well, when police got there, they were, for the most part, able to disperse these teens, but the chaos wasn't done yet. I want to show you a video of what the scene looked like last night when police were first responding, and you can see just how huge this response was from law enforcement as they worked to determine the threat level. Witnesses estimate over 100 teens were in the group that started setting off fireworks there in Atlantic Station. That large group dispersed again when law enforcement swarmed, but then a smaller group of teens caused more trouble. They started at 1371 Market Street Southwest, and then they headed towards Spring Street Northwest and 17th Street Northeast, and that's where shots were fired. Officers shut down Spring Street, and people in nearby restaurants and bars were told to shelter in place. Now, this restaurant I'm standing in front of, Non-Thai Fine Dining, they sustained bullet holes in their windows. There was a car that was damaged. Luckily, police say no one was injured, so right now they're focused on property damages only. We're working.
So one of the biggest questions I have is, first of all, how old were the teens? If they were super young, where were the parents? Why are the parents letting these kids out there unsupervised like this? At the end of the day, the parents need to be responsible for their children. Once they get to a certain age, yes, they can take responsibility for themselves and they need to face the consequences of their actions. But at certain ages, the parents are responsible. So the parents have to be held accountable. But let's keep going. Let's go over into this next video.
This afternoon, police are investigating after a shooting involving juveniles at Atlantic Station. It ended with businesses there being damaged and scaring a lot of people.
A lot of folks there. A lot of folks visit there as well. And officers say this all began when a large crowd of people set off fireworks in and around Atlantic Station over the weekend. 11 Alive's Molly Oak is live right now from the 17th Street Bridge tonight, right where this all apparently went down, Molly. Somali police say 5 juveniles can actually face charges.
Yeah, no word yet on what those charges could be, as police say their investigation continues. Chaos hit close.
It sounded so close. That's why I yelled, oh. You know, I'm thinking like, dang, did I just get grazed? But my adrenaline was pumping so much because so much just happened in that moment.
Atlanta police say around 7:15 p.m. on Saturday, officers responded to a fight at Atlantic Station. When they arrived, Police found a large crowd of young people who told them someone set off fireworks, igniting panic.
And then I heard it escalated to gunshot.
2.5 hours later, and right down the road near 17th Street and Spring Street Southwest, Atlanta police say they detained 5 minors after gunshots were fired, hitting nearby businesses.
The city of Atlanta, if they can do better as far as, just implementing that curfew, just really stand on top of things out there in that environment, being it's a family-friendly shopping center, a little bit of protection can go a long way.
We reached out to police regarding the city's curfew and enforcement. Now, the city's curfew applies to kids 16 and under. Weekdays, it runs from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. On Fridays and Saturdays, from midnight to 6 a.m. But it's important to note that both incidences happened outside the city's curfew hours. As far as enforcement, City Code says curfew is the responsibility of the parents. The first time, Code says it's a warning citation. The next, it's attendance in an educational program. As for Atlantic Station, it also has a curfew. Its website saying it is strictly enforced. It says after 3 p.m., anyone under 18 must be with a parent or guardian, and each parent or guardian can only have a max of 4 kids they're watching. The website says groups of 4 or more kids will be dispersed. And we reached out to Atlantic Station multiple times over the last couple of days. It did just answer me the last couple of hours and says that it will be issuing a statement. No word yet on when that statement will come. It says it will issue that in accordance with APD, but important to note, guys, that first incident did happen after its curfew was in place.
So my question is, if the parents don't enforce this, why aren't they going after the parents? And then do the people want them to spend more money, the taxpayers to spend more money on policing other people's children who can't get them under control? It's a crazy situation, but they are looking at
New details.
They are looking at the parents may face charges.
About the chaos that erupted at Atlantic Station Saturday, with hundreds of teens swarming the area, leading to gunfire just blocks away.
Yeah, you see them running here right behind us. Joe Gorcho joins us tonight from outside Atlantic Station. And Joe, the Atlanta police are also issuing a warning to parents of these teenagers.
Wale Sidney, Atlanta's police chief, did not mince his words in a video message from earlier today, essentially pointing to accountability starting at home, emphasizing that adults could ultimately face charges here if they are found to have violated the city's ordinance on supervising their children. Saturday night chaos at Atlantic Station.
What we did not see were parents.
Atlanta Police Chief Darren Shearbaum said law enforcement swarmed Atlantic Station following calls of teens setting off fireworks in and around the area.
Most of which were under the age of 17.
Around 400 kids disrupted the holiday weekend, forcing stores to go on lockdown.
So I just hid myself behind a little counter and just went back there. I was like, hey, I'm not taking no more orders.
Alexis Heath revisits what happened that night at the Atlantic Station store where she works, revealing the chaotic scene that unfolded.
It was like at least over 100 kids here, and they went throughout our whole store. So our whole store was packed up from the first floor to the second floor. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
The fireworks turned to gunfire blocks away from Atlantic Station, bullets damaging the windows of businesses and restaurants. Fortunately, no one was injured. Chief Shearbaum said the kids under investigation for the gunfire are 14, 15, 16, and 17 years old.
I wasn't like too afraid because I was like, I'm not going to put my life in risk of the stuff that's going on outside.
Atlantic Station has strict curfew rules for kids. Anyone under 18 must have adult supervision after 3, and no one under 21 can be there after 9 at night.
It's like if they haven't enforced it now, I don't think they're going to enforce it at all.
Atlanta police are considering charging parents for what happened on Saturday.
We must be joined by parents knowing where their children are, ensuring they are under proper supervision of adults and are abiding by the law.
Now, it only makes sense that the parents need to be charged. It only makes sense. Hopefully, with them having the potential to be charged, they will look after their children more. But some of these kids are just out of control. We got to admit that. Some of these kids are just out of control, don't even listen to their parents. And we know we got to be honest, and we know where they're going to end up. We know exactly where they will end up. Absolutely crazy. Now let's go over into this next video where it talks about just all the incidents that happened. We're not going to watch it for long, but let's get over into it.
This is Atlantic Station. If you live in Atlanta, you know it. Shopping, food, movies, big crowds. But over the last few years, it's also become a place where safety incidents keep showing up. Atlantic Station is a mixed-use district in Midtown. It pulls in families, tourists, and a lot of teens on the weekends. That volume matters because when something breaks out here, it spreads fast. In 2020, police responded after huge crowds of teens gathered and fights broke out. It was the kind of scene where people are trying to get out of the way, figure out what's happening, and stay safe.
Just waves of kids like walking down the street, and we were like, where did these people come from?
In 2021, police arrested a man they say brought multiple firearms and body armor into Publix at Atlantic Station. Later that year, authorities say that someone fired into a large crowd and an off-duty Georgia state officer working security fired back. In 2022, a shooting near Atlantic Station killed 2 teens. Police identified them as 12-year-old Zion Charles and a 15-year-old Cameron Jackson. Other people were also hurt, and afterward, the city and police talked about curfews, crowd control, and security. Police also released surveillance video and announced a reward as they worked to identify the suspects. In 2023, that case moved through court. Several suspects took plea deals, and one teen tied to the case took a deal that included 5 years in prison.
Cameron's mom, Tiffany Smith.
When you sit in court and you see the age and you see they're just babies, it's hard.
In 2025, police also evacuated Atlantic Station after a phoned-in threat. Investigators later said no device was found and the all clear was given. Then on Saturday, December 27, 2025, Atlanta police say officers responded after 7 p.m. Police say they found about 400 unsupervised teens at Atlantic Station. Fireworks were being set off. Later that night, police say 2 guns were fired and several minors were detained.
It sounded so close. That's why I yelled, oh, I'm thinking.
No, it's going back. They keep saying the same things. That curfew and parents need to be responsible, but it doesn't seem to be working. Now, that just might just be my initial thinking, but overall, it's a crazy situation and something needs to be done. So let's see if we got any more information. So as we know, it happened around 7 p.m. where they responded to the fireworks being set off. 10 p.m. was when the gunfire hit. Approximately 30 shots, forcing diners at a nearby restaurant to take shelter on the floor. While no one was injured, bullets struck several nearby businesses. So no one was injured, but 4 parents of any of the 400 juvenile children that were present, mostly which were under the age of 17. So 5 juveniles ages 14 to 17 were detained for their allegedly roles in firing the weapons. So parental charges they're talking about stated that the parents found in violation of the city's proper supervision ordinance will face charges. But they keep saying that, but they don't do it. It seems like it's been happening for years now, and they're still just letting it run. Absolutely crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts on it. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. Absolutely crazy situation, y'all. Crazy situation. Luckily, no one died from this situation, but might not be the same thing for next time. Absolutely crazy. But we're going to pivot over into the next topic we're going to be discussing today. It's a crazy one. Something that how the world's going, I'm not surprised about. $400,000 lobster heist. Yeah, I said it right. A group of people who we don't know what they look like just stole $400,000 of lobster. And I think this was a few days or a day after someone stole a large amount of crab. Somebody New Year's going to be good. But let's get over into a few videos about this and see what we can find out. Overall, it's a crazy situation. And a lot of pictures come in my mind of who could be responsible, but we don't know because we haven't released it. They haven't released any information about it yet. But let's get over into it and see what we can find out.
New information into a possible seafood theft now gaining national attention. The FBI investigating what happened to some $400,000 worth of live lobsters. The shipment was bound for multiple Costco locations across Illinois and Minnesota, and a number of outlets report the company responsible for the delivery says the lobsters were hijacked somewhere between Massachusetts and Illinois. One podcast focused on seafood talks about the value lobsters have. Listen to this.
Lobster prices were through the roof. And for hard shells, for example, you weren't going to find wholesale prices coming under about $10 a pound for anything except a cull. But now the tides have turned. So as Barb mentioned, the Canadian season, the biggest lobster fishing areas have kicked off. Canadian hard shells are coming into the U.S. now at about $2 cheaper than last year.
So with us now is Amanda Buckles. She's the co-host of the podcast Catch the Current. It's a weekly show providing in-depth insights into global seafood markets. Nice to see you today.
Yes, thanks for having me on. I appreciate being here.
This is just a wild story. It has been such a talker here around the newsroom. What's your reaction when you heard $400,000 in lobsters were lost or stolen, or we're not sure exactly what happened here?
It's a seafood podcaster's dream, honestly. It's a lot of lobster, and it's Costco, which catches everybody's attention too. But it's a Whopper for short, and the cargo manifest hasn't been made publicly available. But the podcast is actually run through undercurrentnews.com. We report on trade and pricing data. So I asked our price reporting team what $400,000 worth of lobster looks like, and they estimate it would be around 40,000 pounds of lobster. So you're looking at around $8 to $9 a pound wholesale price.
My goodness. Okay, so how is a theft like this going to impact the price of lobster nationwide? If anybody wants to have, a fancy meal for New Year's Eve or even New Year's Day when they're part of their good luck meal or something, how's this going to impact things? Could it?
I don't think anyone's going to get hit this week. It's definitely going to impact people in the long term because Costco's already looking to, kind of take back the hit that they're getting from the tariffs already. And that's not to say that lobster is one of the items getting hit from the tariffs, because it could be coming from, our shores, not necessarily coming from Canada, which isn't actually getting hit by the tariffs. That's a whole other issue. But they're already looking to kind of they introduced this lobster mac and cheese. They're expanding their private label line. They're already looking to cut costs. So this isn't a good thing to have, products stolen. But what I think actually is interesting here is that, Costco store offerings, they vary by location and season, but Costco's live lobster is actually a seasonal offering. So this was for the holidays leading up to New Year's. And so this was obviously an organized cargo theft. Somebody knew that this was happening. They obviously have a buyer already lined up. This isn't like somebody, I'm going to steal this and, oh, wow, I end up with
then just magically you've got $400,000 worth of lobsters and you show up somewhere. Yeah, you would think so. It reminds me, it's really captivating, this story. I have so many questions and the details are scant. They're still coming in, so we're still trying to get a handle on it. But it almost reminds you of the Louvre heist, Everybody's like, wait, what happened? So how prevalent is the theft of seafood? Is it something that, does this happen?
It does happen. Fortunately, a lot of big retailers, they have sustainability and traceability requirements. So they're not the ones that are selling these products. Unfortunately, it comes down to some of the mom and pop shops. This isn't something that happens often. We do look at CargoNet, and they do report that there has actually been a Q3 rise in meat and seafood product theft. That's likely due to the holidays, obviously. But like I said, it's these smaller stores that don't have these strict requirements that can maybe receive fraudulent paperwork. So unfortunately, or maybe they're just getting told like, hey, I got a really great deal on something, and they're thinking, wow, this is great for my business. But it's likely not going back to these bigger retailers.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download.
Crazy situation. Let's go over to this next video.
Seafood was stolen. The FBI is investigating after $400,000 worth of lobsters disappeared after the shipment left a warehouse here in Massachusetts.
As NBC 10's consumer investigative reporter Bianca Beltran reports, this theft is believed to be part of a larger pattern of organized cargo theft.
Well, the lobster was essentially handed over to the thieves because a shipping industry leader familiar with the incident told me that they appear to be impersonating a legitimate trucking company.
We look at this lobster theft as kind of a wake-up call. Our supply chain is under attack, and if we don't act now, consumers will continue to pay the price at the checkout line.
Chris Burrows is CEO and president of the Transportation Intermediaries Association, representing third-party logistics companies that ship goods. He says on December 12th, fraudsters were masquerading as a legitimate truck company when they arrived at the Lineage Logistics cold storage facility in Taunton to pick up $400,000 worth of frozen lobster meat.
They had an email address that was very similar to the email address of the trucking company. There was actually an extra dash put in, which unfortunately was not picked up on.
The lobster was supposed to be delivered to Costco warehouses in Illinois and Minnesota, but the shipment disappeared.
There was GPS tracking on the truck. They turned that off as well. So this is a very sophisticated, organized criminal ring of cargo theft that's going on.
Burrows says cargo theft is a growing concern as criminals become more sophisticated at impersonating legitimate businesses. Homeland Security estimates that cargo theft accounts for $15 to $35 billion in loss annually.
And these costs just don't disappear. Obviously, your insurance rates go up, costs throughout the supply chain go up, and then ultimately as consumers, we kind of, pay that as we go to the shelves or the grocery store.
So the trade association that Chris Burrows leads is advocating for legislation that aims to strengthen federal enforcement of cargo theft, as well as close regulatory loopholes that criminals are exploiting.
Absolutely crazy situation. So they just pulled up and pretended to be a certain cargo company. Let's go over into a little bit more breakdown. You know how I like to go to the AI overview. And let's see. So in late December 2025, a shipment of lobsters worth around $400,000 was stolen while en route to Costco location. The theft, which took place in Massachusetts, has been attributed to an organized cargo theft ring specializing in high-value, hard-to-track perishables. So the perpetrators use a sophisticated identity theft scheme to impersonate a legitimate trucking company. So that's what he said. There was an extra dash in the email. So the load was picked up on December 12th, 2025 from a shipment facility in Massachusetts. Shortly after leaving the facility, the driver turned off the truck's GPS monitor and vanished. Investigations later revealed that the driver had provided a fake commercial driver's license. So the FBI is currently investigating the incident, which is part of a growing trend where they say there's around 30 to 50 billion annually. So it's a crazy situation. With scams are getting more advanced, where they're implementing it into cargo thefts, getting away with $400,000 worth of product. Crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts on that whole situation. Absolutely crazy. We're going to pivot over into the last topic we're going to be talking about today, and that is we got the murder suicide. So let's get over into that of Texas, murder suicide in Texas. Let's jump over into that and see what we can find out about that whole situation. We can get over into it. Let's get into it.
A man and woman were killed in an apparent murder-suicide. Their adult son also injured during the gunfire. And an officer who responded to the scene is now recovering from injuries he got during a shootout with the suspect. Fox 4's Dion Englund has the details. Dion.
Hi there, Eden. The effort to collect evidence and process this scene has gone on for roughly 18 hours now. Police trying to piece together how this began and how and why things ended so tragically. The crime scene and investigation stretched from Sunday night into Monday. Officers within a tight perimeter collected evidence at the Grand Prairie home where the gruesome murder-suicide unfolded just after a shootout with police. Chocante? Sotero Quinones lives a few houses away from the family and says he is shocked to learn what happened. He says it feels bad right now. It wasn't like that in the time I've been here. Never seen even police here. They don't come here. Police say around 10 p.m. Sunday, officers responded to the home in the 1600 block of Avenue B. They say a 62-year-old suspect shot his adult son in the face after the son intervened in an argument between the suspect and his mother. Police say the son survived and ran to a neighbor's home who called 911. Once on the scene, officers, given the violence and the victim still inside, made forced entry at the home. Police say immediately the suspect began shooting at the officers, and they returned fire. One officer was struck by ricochet gunfire and received minor injuries. Police say eventually the officers entered the home and discovered the woman in a bedroom deceased. She'd been shot multiple times. The suspect was also found in a bathroom, dead, from what police say was a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
We go how does it turn into, oh my God, a man arguing with his wife. I'm assuming he was a abuser. He ends up shooting his son. The son leaves, runs away. And then he gets into a gunfight with the police, ends up taking his wife and his life. It's a crazy situation, and there's some real sick people in this world.
Now, the victims' identities will be released.
Sick as in demons, not mentally. I don't know. There's a lot of demons in this world. That's what I'm saying.
By the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office. Thus far, that office has not done so. That's the very latest live. Eden, back.
Absolutely crazy. Let's get over into this next video, see if it gives us a little bit more details.
Police were called out here to Avenue B last night around 10 o'clock. That's when they say they got a 911 call that a man had been shot in the face by his father. They say that man ran to a neighbor's house for help. He told police he was shot by his father after getting in the middle of a fight between his father and mother. Neighbors said they heard police out here commanding a person inside that home to come out for several hours last night. A neighbor's security cameras caught more than a dozen shots being fired around 1:30 in the morning. Police say when they made entry, the suspect started shooting at them. The suspect was later found in a bathroom with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police also discovered the mother dead inside a bedroom. Neighbors say they are stunned and devastated that this could happen on their quiet street.
We didn't have
They love to say that. They always
have any words. When we heard that he shot his son in the face, I was like shocked, honestly.
Police say an officer was also injured from ricochet gunfire, but that officer is expected to be okay. The identities of the two people found dead have not been released. In Grand Prairie, I'm Brittany Costello.
Crazy situation. Great. Let's get, but we know we have to get over into the AI breakdown just to give us a little summary of everything that happened. Because I like to look at it. Hold on. Go to the wrong thing. There it is. So, December 29th, details of apparent family violence murder-suicide in Texas involving a 62-year-old man and his wife. So the incidents, the shooting occurred around 10 p.m. on Sunday in the 1600 block of Avenue B. The couple's adult son was shot in the face while attempting to intervene in an argument between his parents and called 911. When officers arrived, the suspect fired at them, and one of the officers sustained minor injuries from a ricochet. SWAT officers later entered the home and found the husband and wife deceased. The husband had a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Absolutely crazy. That is all we know about the situation right now. What can cause... Sounds to me that he was an abuser. Sounds like he was an abuser. I don't know why the father decided to shoot the son. Maybe he just didn't. He's just trying to prove that he's the man. Because the son tried to intervene and obviously protect his mother. Which my thinking, intervene or stop the argument, intervene, most likely protect his mother. Because it sounds like that he was one of those men who like to abuse their wives, abuse their kids. But he ended up shooting the adult son. And I'm assuming he knew as soon as the son got away, he knew the cops were coming and he didn't want to face his punishment. So he decided to go through, he killed the wife because they love to take people with them. He killed the wife and got into a shootout with the police before ultimately ending his own life in a cowardly move. We got to call it what it is, a cowardly move. But 62, they're released age, 62 years old. At 62 years old, you're over here doing a murder-suicide, trying to kill your son. You shot him in the face. That's attempted murder. You tried to kill your own son at 62. Got into a police shootout and then ultimately took your wife's and your own life at 62 years old. It just goes to show you, no matter how old they are, there are some crazy people in this world. And when crazy people are looking or about to be punished or about to go down, they'll drag anybody with them. They will drag anybody close to them with them. Ladies, I'm going to say this. I always say this. But if you're in an abusive relationship, leave. Men too. We need to talk about that as well. Nobody should be putting their hands on anybody. And if you're in an abusive relationship, it's not a good relationship and you need to leave. It's as simple as that. But it's a crazy situation. Hopefully we get to hear later on who the exact man was, what he looks like. That's the man. I like to see what they look like. But yeah, they still haven't released any information about who it is. Absolutely crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts on it. And let me know if you disagree with anything I said. Be careful who you decide to let in your life. And know that, and understand the right times when you need to leave any type of relationship. Absolutely crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts and let me know if you disagree with anything I said. But that is it for the show today, y'all. Like always, we talk about a lot of crazy things. And these are things we just need to review together. We have to review this stuff together. Let me know your thoughts and let me know if you disagree with anything I said. Remember, these videos will be broken down, so you can watch the one you want to. The world is a crazy place, but we got to review it together. We have to review it together. What's that? Evil world. But thank you for watching now. Thank you for watching later. That is the end of the show. Remember, this is the greatest. I'm gonna keep pronouncing it. I'm gonna keep putting it into the air because it is. This is the greatest afternoon show. How is it? Afternoon or evening? You know what I'm saying? It's the greatest after work show that you can find. If you love news, if you love hearing about the craziest side of the world, if you love thinking about how someone can commit some of the craziest atrocities, this is the greatest show. Thank you for watching, y'all. Thank you for watching later, but you already know we got to go. But I will be back. Remember, this show is Monday through Friday, starting between 6 and 7. We will be here New Year's. We'll be here New Year's Eve because there's a lot of crazy things. And we already know there's going to be some crazy things happening on New Year's. But y'all, remember to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can be up to date on all the videos. But you know I got to play the outro. That's it for now, y'all. Peace.